Run fam, what are you even doing? I miss you. Hey, I want to talk to you for a few weeks about the fear of the Lord. Boo! I love watching movies in the genre thriller, when you're on the edge of your seat and there's a layer of mystery and the main characters are trying to find the answers. Who's behind this? What really happened? What's going to happen next? And you know, the most thrilling thrillers are the ones that have an element of danger to them. Like, I'm going to round this corner and I might find the truth, or I might find something really dangerous, and it just adds so much anticipation and suspense. But what I love about that combination of feelings, it creates an experience that I like to call scary exciting. And following God is a lot like that. When you enter into a daily relationship with Jesus and follow him as a disciple, he calls you to some scary stuff. Dying to yourself, living in humility in the world, living in purity, to give a bold witness to our world of the good news every day. That can be tough and difficult, but when he calls you to round a corner and he wants to do some difficult changes in you, there's some exciting things that happen too. You get to experience the glory of God. You get a fresh glimpse and taste of the awesome presence of God. Living with that scary, exciting fear of the Lord drives our Christian life. When you stop following Christ in obedience, you lose the fear of the Lord. And whenever you lose the fear of the Lord, you will always have three things: hypocrisy, lying, and pretending. You know, there's a scriptural Oreo in Acts 4 and 5. There's two amazing stories and a really tough story in the middle. In Acts 4, the early church was like at its apex of being heavenly. The community was awesome. Basically, people became so compassionate that it said they gave to one another until there were no needs left. Can you imagine that type of sharing? No needs left. And then in Acts chapter 5, it says that the power of God was unleashed in divine healing to the point where Peter would walk down the street and sick people and demon-possessed people would line the street, and just his shadow would unleash the power of God and heal them when his shadow hit them. It's an amazing story, two stories, but right in the middle, there's a tough one, but it's important. I think when Luke was writing Acts, he thought, should I include this? And the Holy Spirit said, yeah, you should include it because it'll help change our lives. Here's what happened. Acts 5, verse 1. There was a certain man named Ananias. With his wife Sapphira, he sold some property. He brought part of the money to the apostles, claiming it was the full amount. But with his wife's consent, he kept the rest. Then Peter said, Ananias, why have you let Satan fill your heart? You lied to the Holy Spirit and kept some of the money for yourself. The property was yours to sell or not sell as you wished. After selling it, the money was also yours to give away. But how could you do this thing? You weren't lying to us, but to God. As soon as Ananias heard these words, he fell to the floor and died. Everyone who heard about it was terrified. Then some young men got up, wrapped him in a sheet, and took him out and buried him. Later his wife came in and said the same lie. Peter replied, how could the two of you even think of conspiring to test the Spirit of the Lord like this? Then the same thing happened to her, and she was buried next to her husband. Verse 11 sums it all up. Great fear gripped the entire church and everyone else who heard what had happened. And then right after that, we see those divine healings. The power of God is unleashed. I just want to give you three thoughts about the fear of the Lord from this passage. Number one, fearing the Lord means we don't hold back. This is a mirror to the story of Achan in Joshua 7. You should go read that whole story. But basically, when the Bible was translated into Greek, it's called the Septuagint, and the whole Bible was in one language. What Achan did and what Ananias did, the same word is actually used. It's the word nos physo, and it means to hold back or to set aside for yourself what has been dedicated to God. You know, our lives belong to God, but so often we're afraid of losing what we have. It wasn't a thrilling, scary, exciting fear of the Lord that Achan had or Ananias had. It was the fear of missing out. It was the fear of loss. But be encouraged. The inheritance that God is giving you outweighs whatever you will give up for him a zillionfold. I said a zillionfold. And that's why we don't just follow Christ until we get scared, until we start trembling. We follow Christ while we're trembling. Number two, the second thing about the fear of the Lord is fearing the Lord means we're honest about our imperfections. Christ has already saved us, given us his mercy and grace. We don't have to pretend to be somebody we're not. We just have to give God our lives as a living sacrifice. You know, it wasn't the selling of the property that insulted God. It wasn't even giving the money to the church that insulted God. That's great. It was the lying to God. Lying is inspired by Satan. That's why Peter said to Ananias, "Why have you let Satan fill your heart like this?" Lies are inspired by him, and they are heinous. Has anyone ever lied to you? You know that lies sour relationships and they violate trust. God has zero tolerance for old lies in your new life. For God to leave lies unchallenged in our church and in our team would be God abandoning his mission or letting his mission go off course. You can't pretend your way into the blessings of God. The church community, it's all about experiencing God's blessings. You can't pretend your way into those blessings. The truth will always bring freedom and favor. You know, if you're somebody that doesn't think pastors and mentors have any spiritual authority from God to ask you questions about your life and to question your heart and challenge you to examine your spiritual growth, you just need to go read the Bible. It's all right here for you. Fearing the Lord, number 3, brings strong confidence. That's a direct quote from Proverbs 14:26. Another way to read that is, the one who fears the Lord is secure, not insecure. You know, I wish the story went differently. I wish Sapphira would have walked in later and Peter said, "Hey, is this true? This is all the money that you got for the property." I wish Sapphira would have said, "You know what? It's not true. And I know my husband wanted to lie about it, but I want to honor and respect God more than I want to honor and respect my husband." I wish she had the fear of the Lord rather than the fear of Ananias or the fear of losing out. That's not how the story went, though. You know, the more committed you get to this scary, exciting pursuit of Christ, the less scared you'll get of the enemy and the less excited you'll get by the temptations of this world. Leonard Ravenhill said it this way: "Whoever is intimate with God will never be intimidated by man." This life is scary exciting. It's a thrilling walk with Jesus. Let that fear of the Lord come back to you because it's the beginning of every wise thing you'll ever do. Love you guys. Can't wait to talk to you again.